take the floor.
Morning.
And then we'll have to cut them off. This is Scott Rogers from Whistler's FireSmart coordinator, and he's got his crew here. He's overwhelmed.
Josh,
I thought we were
Kyle,
gonna have a
and
couple.
William. Good morning. Thanks for coming out. My role with the municipality is to help us achieve greater wildfire resilience in our community. So one aspect of that is to work with homeowners and help direct some of the work that we can do. So fundamentally, when I look at a property and I'm trying to determine where vulnerabilities lie, we have to look at the structures and then the landscape. And you guys are doing very well in that you have non-combustible roofing. It's the most important structural factor. The reason being is that generally structural loss from wildfire occurs from firebrands. So that's the burning material that's carried by wind, depositing on the roof and then involving the structure that way. So wildfire is a wind-driven event. Fire obviously spreads a number of ways, so we look for fire pathways. There's direct flame contact, there's the radiant heat, and then there's the burning material that gets carried by the wind. So we here in Whistler are surrounded by forest, and our values have changed. We used to like our private little cabin nestled in the woods. We still love the idea of being in the forest here, but now we appreciate that we're changing the world. It's warming up, and our summer season, which used to be the off season, is growing. And with that, it means that our vulnerability to wildfire is increasing. That period of time where it used to be July and August was our summer, it's extending every year bit by bit on each end. This year we were 28 degrees out in mid-May. And some people are like, fantastic, I'm getting out, I'm on my bike, I love it. The lens that I looked through felt quite alarmed early on because it just came too soon, it happened too fast. We're seeing drastic shifts in our weather too. It doesn't go gradual climb, it goes 15 degrees and then the next day it's 30. And that's the new normal for us. That's the reality of the world we live in. And you know, we look at the history of wildfire in British Columbia. In 2003, there were the Kelowna fires. 250 homes were burned down. When we look at Western Canada, you move forward 8 years to 2011, and there was the Slave Lake fire. That was 40% of their town burned down. Insurable loss for Kelowna was $200 million. Insurable loss for Slave Lake was $750 million. You move forward 5 years, you have the 2016 Fort McMurray wildfire. That was a $4 billion insurable loss. So what we're seeing is the period between these large wildfire events is shortening and the scale of loss is increasing. And the reason being is that people are moving into the wilderness. We're building further out into the interface, which is where forest meets homes. And the weather's changing. We find that we've learned now that as these fires are happening on larger scales, they're creating their own weather patterns. It increases lightning strikes so that it compounds it, right? So that we've got fires that are growing and then the fires themselves are triggering weather patterns that create fires. So you can see how that manifests more of a problem. We've got a lot of coniferous forest in Whistler. The FireSmart lens basically dichotomizes vegetation into coniferous and deciduous. So we've got the trees with needles, so either hemlock, spruce, fir, pines. The coniferous trees have oils and resins that burn very hot. They tend to have loose bark, and they also have a tremendous amount of surface area on one branch. Often with the conifers, you can't even see the stem because they're so dense. So they support fire, they hold fire, they continue to burn. Deciduous trees, when they get dry and they become involved, they burn very differently. It's just kind of a all at once and then it's done. Historically in California, we've seen wildfires move through conifers, hit an aspen grove, the fire hits the forest floor and is defeated. So deciduous are very good in terms of fire. The conifers are what we're concerned with, and that's where the treatment is needed. Obviously, when you have a large conifer and it's close to the house, a couple of things can happen. Okay, so Wildfire can either start out in the wilderness and then it can move towards our homes, or something that concerns me in Whistler is that it can start in the home and then it can escape and move into the forest. Forgive me if this is your home, I'm just going to use it for illustrative purposes, but if we were to have a structure fire in this building, and they happen for any number of reasons, right? There's bad electrical, people fall asleep while they're cooking, you're having a barbecue and you take a phone call inside, an ember hops off the barbecue into the trees, for example. And like, fires happen, we accept that. A pathway that I identify here is it could go from structure into the trees, and then it's quite clear that when these trees are involved, because of the proximity of this home and the fuel load in the trees, we can see quite clearly that the fire can move from one structure to another by moving through the trees. Obviously behind us there's a tremendous amount of forest, and I see that you guys are working with Garibaldi to reduce the fuel load back there by thinning and taking out trees. That's excellent. The work that we're going to undertake today is really fine fuel management, so we're going to leave the big stuff to the pros who have the skills and the insurance to take care of any accidents that may happen. We're going to supply you guys with gloves, some eye protection, and some hand tools. And what we want to do is focus on raising up the canopy. So those are the lower limbs on the conifers. We want to have 2 to 3 meters clearance. So if you're on the high side of the tree, you should be able to walk underneath it without any boughs touching your head. And we really want to clean up the forest floor, the down, dead, woody debris, the fine stuff. If you can put your hands around it, it should come out. If you can touch your fingers and thumbs around that piece of wood, it should come out. Generally, our rule of thumb is about 20 centimeters diameter. It's okay to leave it. It's good for the wildlife. It'll decompose as long as it's flush with the forest floor. Then we're not concerned about that in terms of fire fuel. So what we want to do collectively as we're moving through the forest is pick up what you can, prune and clip the trees. The conifers is what we're focused on. Pull it out, put it onto a tarp, and then in teams we pull that out, and we're going to stage it along the road here. We have a truck and a chipper down on Whistler Road below, and after we've finished creating all of our piles of brush, then my crew and I will come up and we'll feed the chipper and clean up and be gone. The reason this work is important is a very effective initial step at reducing the potential of wildfire becoming involved on the forest floor. So let's say if there were embers that were being deposited on the property, if they were to roll off the roof or sort of plinko down through the trees and they hit the forest floor, if there's nothing there to burn, then those embers are going to go out and we don't have anything to worry about. If there is that fine woody debris, it can then create small spot fires, which, you know, the flames are going to move upward, and then if there's those low-hanging limbs, we call them ladder fuels, then the fire can travel up the ladder fuels and into the canopy, which is where it becomes a really big danger. So the initial steps of raising the canopy, pulling out the dead woody debris, very effective first step in increasing the resiliency to that ember deposit. We're also going to be removing the select non-dominant conifers that are throughout. It's unnecessary density. Whistler is all second and third growth, primarily. There is some old growth forest here, but really what happened is we came in, we harvested it, we developed it, and then we didn't do any land management with what was left behind. And so we have unnaturally dense forest around us. There's two ways that density is managed, naturally or mechanically. Natural involves fire, and we've been suppressing fire for a long time too. They happen, we put it out, and what that means is that as these dense forests continue to grow, that fuel load continues to increase. So we've actually kind of set ourselves back by not allowing fire to happen, but it's our instinct. We want to protect what we value, and that's our homes, right? So what we're doing right now is getting back on track with what we probably should have been managing a long time ago. I also want to encourage you, and we're going to talk about this later, FireSmart Canada has something that they call community recognition status. You guys are well on your way there. I don't know if this information has been shared, but the process is have an assessment done of the property that evaluates, scores you, and then you guys share information, and then you get active. And you guys are doing all of that. And so if you guys are awarded the status and you maintain it on an annual basis, it's highly likely that there are going to be home insurance ramifications for you going forward. FireSmart in Canada is modeled after FireWise, which started in the United States back in the 70s. California's been battling wildfires for decades down there. Right now, there are 7 states that recognize FireWise community status, and they're reducing home insurance premiums because of that. So you guys are well underway, and Bruce and I are going to work together on some paperwork so that you guys can get that. They give you a sign, whether or not you put it up or not, it's up to you guys. I would encourage you to do it though, because FireSmart's becoming common knowledge. People are buying in, people are tuned in, and so it's something you guys can be proud of. It's a way of saying we're aware and we're doing something about it. It identifies you guys as responsible members of our community. It makes you guys role models. And that's really important because the ripple effects of this are neighbors talk to each other, people see, oh, they're doing it, maybe we should do it too. The most effective way that Whistler can prepare for wildfire is if everybody starts doing a little bit and keeps doing a little bit. We've got fuel thinning projects that are massive, they're really expensive, they take a long time to accomplish, and they really treat a very small particular area that benefits whoever's closest. But it doesn't really defend against the wind and the embers. And as more and more properties in Whistler get on board and are doing what you guys are doing, then I feel very comfortable about raising my family in Whistler, because I'll tell you, when I took this job, I didn't know what I was getting into, and it's changed the way that I look at this valley, to the extent that I've considered leaving because it scares me that much. And I've been here for 16 years. I love this place. My community, my friends are here. So that's why I'm very passionate about what I do. It's important, and I applaud you guys for coming out and participating today. It's outstanding.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. All right. Also, Bruce has some peaks that were published about a month ago. Great article in there if you haven't read it. It's called Call to Action. I've got some quotables in there. But there's some great information in there, some more resources, some links that are provided for you guys as well. So we will go down and grab our tools and tarps and whatnot, and be up here shortly to get you guys started. And we're going to start on 2 sides here, the left and the right. So behind Unit 7 and behind Unit 11. And yeah, I'm sure you guys are going to find that once we get going, you're going to find your role, your niche, and we'll get busy and be productive. So, great.